to start a discussion about Dubrovnik. And we'll come back to Dubrovnik here later on. Here you can see it's on the southern end of what we would today call the Dalmatian coast. It's originally, as I told you, known as Ragusa. Has its origins in the 6th century, not long after Venice was being established. We find what were Dalmatian refugees. In this case, they were fleeing from other kinds of influences, especially we were actually beginning to see our first evidences of Slavic penetration into the region. So we have Dalmatian-speaking refugees who come into and eventually end up creating the city of Dubrovnik. Although, as I said earlier, it is not known as Dubrovnik earlier, it's known as Ragusa. The language they spoke is known as Romance Dalmatian. Romance Dalmatian. And that is a language that will dominate all the cities of the Adriatic on the eastern side well into the 19th century. It's essentially Latin mixed in with what were the original languages of the many cities there along there. They were fleeing from the Avars. There's a particular city, it was an old Greek city called Epidaurus that was destroyed, and a great many Epidaurians apparently fled only 15 miles away, but you flee 15 miles and over a mountain and onto an island, the island of Lausa, a rocky island where you begin building a fortress, and that is where you hide, okay? And that becomes Ragusa, the basis of the beginning of what will eventually be the Republic of Ragusa. Essentially, they were Romans, speaking Romance Dalmatian, educated people. This is going to be part of the character of the city for virtually all of its history, which is one of the reasons why later it's going to become a cradle, so to speak, of Croatian literature. Not a whole lot of people, I find not a whole lot of people have ever heard of Ragusa, or have any knowledge of its status as a place of learning. But it was for the Adriatic a very important place. At first, though, very dependent, at least well into the 12th century, on their relationship with the Byzantine Empire. That was the reality that they had to do with. The Byzantine Empire is a key for us in terms of our understanding of all of these developments, and in particular, there is an emperor. Let's see if I can get him to come up here. We debate among us historians as to whether or not Justinian was the first Byzantine emperor or the last Roman emperor. Okay. His wife, Theodora, was resplendent and intelligent and in all the accounts considered a natural partner, which is very unusual for the time, especially in Roman culture, for a woman to publicly have that role. Now, Augustus's wife had that role with him privately, but to have a role with him publicly was very, very different. He was the last Latin-speaking emperor, which is one of the reasons why he might be the last Roman. Famous especially for the fact that he tried to reconquer the West. So this is a map of what we call the Byzantine Empire after he died. You can see that he regained control of North Africa, a little bit of Spain. It shows you there that he reconquered Italy, but there's a story there. The reconquest of Italy was very, very difficult. It wasn't just destroying what was the Ostrogothic kingdom. The people that lived there, I told you, had learned to like their Ostrogothic rulers. They had restored order, the economy was doing well. And frankly, for average people, the return of Roman troops wasn't seen as a good thing. The last time they'd had Roman troops, they had used their territories to fight civil wars. They had plundered the treasury. And so, quite the opposite of rushing to the beaches to greet the Byzantine troops, they rushed to the beaches to fight the Byzantine troops. The whole population of Italy, like the population of Dalmatia, preferred their Germanic rulers. What it led to was a terrible war, 17 years of warfare. And the only reason that Byzantine troops were able to, better use this one here, able to eventually win is they brought in another group of Germans from the north known as the Lombards. And the Lombards were vicious. and massacred whole communities. This is a map that shows us what was left afterward. The yellow territory in Italy is the territory that the Lombards ran. It turned out that bringing the Lombards in was not a good idea because then they would leave. There's a whole part of Italy today called Lombardy, which is where they are eventually confined, but it took quite a while to get them to go and to stay there. Well over half the population of all of Italy was massacred. The poverty we associate with Italy in the Middle Ages didn't come from the collapse of the Roman Empire. It came from the destruction imposed upon them by Justinian's his general Belisarius at the time. The terrible conditions that existed were because of this reconquest process. It's very much misunderstood. And in the minds of people in those territories, the idea of the East ruling over them would be a bad taste in their mouth. Right. By the way, the West will return that bad taste to the East. We'll look at the Fourth Crusade here later on, and watch the same thing that happened here in reverse. Venice didn't suffer from this terrible reconquest. Their lagoons, their isolation kept them from having to go through what all the rest of Italy had to experience that time. The rest of Italy was a mess for quite some time with the Lombards running parts of it. The Byzantine rulers eventually have other bigger problems when the Persians attack in the east and they have to pull away anyway. Holding on only to enclaves. Among the enclaves they held on to was the city of Ravenna, which is very close to, you see Ravenna, they're very close to Venice as well. They held on to Rome for as long as they could, but eventually their own military needs meant that they had to pull out. So all the destruction turned out to be for nothing with regard to any long-term military value. What this did result in, though, was even greater autonomy for Venice. The fact that they had to go through any of this destruction.
What kind of military action are you talking about? What were their weapons? How did they operate? So
They aren't fighting quite in the phalanx style anymore. It's hand-to-hand combat, not too particularly sophisticated. I would say the old Roman armies were much more sophisticated. If you were dealing with the Byzantine armies in the east, and particularly in the defense of Constantinople, they had all manner of devices that they used quite successfully, including devices that threw burning tar and things of that nature. Those were ship-bound sorts of devices that they used in defense of their cities. It's old style, hand-to-hand combat is what it is. But the Byzantines didn't use the phalanx structure the way the old Roman army had once used it. The old Roman army had become more of an engineering army, which is what the Byzantine army was. The Lombards, they were just rather like the Huns, actually, in terms of how they did battle. Nothing particularly well organized, but vicious nonetheless. So Venice escaped, and Ragusa, on the other hand, was still under Byzantine influence. I don't seem to have a map that shows Ragusa as much. You can see Salone there. Ragusa is a little bit south of there, or what would be Dubrovnik. Let's see if I've got a map here. Don't do that. When you're working with your own, with the PowerPoint, it's a little bit problematic. There. You can see Ragusa. This is later on. We've got Croats on this map, so it is later on. You can see Ragusa right there. Okay. All these little places along the way, these little city-states, maritime city-states are going to be very important to us here later on. But Ragusa is going to be the most important of them.
Ragusa, which is Dubrovnik.
That will be Dubrovnik, yeah. We won't see the word Dubrovnik becoming prevalent until well into the 13th and 14th centuries, when Croats are...
It looks like it's a longer word, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's...
What does it say?
Right, that's what I was saying.
Raguskin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all these states were able to communicate with one another with that Romance donation.
Yes. Quite a few people could also still speak Old Latin as well during Old Latin by this time, wasn't the Latin that Ulysses had spoken. It was very.
So they weren't isolated enclaves by any means.
Oh, not by any means at all. That